Hello everybody. So last month I did a long overdue review of the Tamiya official Super Speed Guidebook for 2022 to 2023. Well, today I received the newest version of this Super Speed Guidebook. This is the 2023 to 2024 version of the guidebook. Pretty cool. So as you see here on the cover, it's got the new Estora kit. It's an MA chassis kit. It looks pretty cool and it's pretty inexpensive, so if you haven't gotten this yet, please do so. Go to your local hobby store and buy one. Pretty cool. So other things on display on the cover here, we've got this like a different version of the K4 Gamble, right? So it's like a truck, but it's on that same kind of K4 Gamble platform. Pretty cool. And we've got some details on the new 2023 Japan Cup track, which includes this new lane changer kind of thing right here. This is like a very special kind of lane changer that's like kind of an unpredictable kind of thing. Depending on how you move throughout the course and how you hit the entrance, you might come out not quite the way you'd like to go out of the lane changer. So it's pretty devious. This is probably going to be a game changer for a lot of speedy racers out there because it introduces almost a random variable to the whole thing. So I'll also show you the newest sticker sheet that's included in this book. So here we go. Let's open the page and let's see what's inside. So here we go. Always this Get Navi ad in the first page. The next page here has the special sticker sheet. Yay! So as you see here, the stickers are much larger. The round stickers are much larger than last time. The previous sticker sheet, as you see, they've got smaller stickers right here, smaller round stickers. There's a lot more round stickers too. Then, oh, I can't say that because they have these little tiny ones as well. So you've got everything from large to tiny. And of course, you've got the requisite Yokohama tire decals right here, and the requisite Mini 4-wheel drive Japan Cup 2023, whereas the previous year, 2022, in the previous sticker sheet set. And pretty cool. So let's continue on. The next page has the table of contents. Yes, so these are some of the things that we already covered on the front cover. That's right here, repeated for us. So there's some painting tips that are going to be shown, and lots of other things too. So let's continue on. Pretty cool. Here's the new 2023 track, Japan Cup 2023. So yeah, as you see here, this devious lane changer right here. And there's a possibility that if your car hits the entrance the right way, it'll exit the right way, but in other cases, the car might start ricocheting off the insides of the track, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So yeah, lots of devious little turns and twists and hops and things like that. There's this thing called the bunny hop, and yeah, you'll get to learn about that. So here's the strange thing, or it's not so strange. Here's the cool thing, I'll call it. They are actually doing a series of videos now, short 30-second videos that describe each little aspect of the track. That's pretty cool. So you can look on YouTube for that on the Tamiya Incorporated channel. So here we see like a little more in-depth each of the little pieces of each track, and this is sort of like the print version of those little 30-second videos that I just mentioned. Pretty cool. Here we see a preview of what the new Japan Cup 2023 carbon plate designs are going to look like. And I was at first disappointed in the fact that I said to myself, hey, wait, are we getting another yellow, right? Yellow printing? Because 2020 we had yellow printing, and then a friend of mine said, no, that's not yellow. It's apple green is the color. And I took a look at this very closely, and it is different in shade than yellow. It's like slightly greenish, but it's not so significant that I can't mistake it for yellow, so it still looks kind of yellow to me. So I guess for this particular color, you might like to steer towards, say, the Japan Cup series where they have like the neon yellow. Neon yellow would definitely look good with this apple green color. So yeah, that would be a very good color match right there. And then we have here the 2023 motors. Pretty cool, as you see here. They are green for the single shaft and black label for the double shaft, so black printing that is. And here's some new wheel sets and new rollers. Pretty cool. More of a description of what could happen with this new section right here, this lane changer section. And so here are the different possibilities that might happen. These are only some possibilities now, not every possible possibility can be considered, or shown, that is, because it is very random in how you can enter into the part of the track and then exit out of that part of the track. So here are different possibilities of what might happen to your car if it were to not exit properly. So here we have the Neo VQS Advanced Pack as an example, and what they did was they upgraded it with other parts so that it will be usable on 2023 tracks. So they were experimenting with that on this particular page and what parts you need to get your car race-worthy for the 2023 track. Here it looks like some pictures from a race that occurred called the King Cup 2023. And here we see some explanations of the new cars that are available. So you see here the Astora, we see here the different version of the K4 Gamble. It's a truck, but it's like kind of a comical version of the truck. Here we see something that looks pretty cool. It's an MS chassis, and it's got this old style cowl here, this old style car. Yeah, so it looks almost like a Japan Cup 2023 style car with its neon body. And here we have a new version of that bus truck that is so popular in the Philippines. And here we go through the normal catalog, right? So this is an updated catalog including all of the 2023 kits that came out for all the various different chassis types. So it's an updated catalog. So let's take a quick peek at some of the ones that I like in particular. So I'll tell you about the ones that I don't like, as well as the ones I like. I'm not too fond of the Lord Spirit and the Lord Knight and the Jado. So to me, those cars, I don't know, I think they're kind of like silly with their 4.2 to 1 gear ratios. They've got bigger wheels, that's true, but these wheels aren't the best for certain types of tracks, so I don't really like them that much. What I do like I like the Neo VQS. I'm not too fond of the Race Spear, the Japan Cup 2022, the previous version of this, what was it called? I forget now. Oh no. But this one was a good car as well. And I do like these little tiny cars. They've got these hard shells to them, so they've got a bit of heft, a bit of weight to them, so they're pretty cool. FMA chassis are rapidly becoming my favorite chassis. So you've got this Rowdy Bull starter set. So I highly recommend that if you are to get into this hobby and you want to learn some things in a very quick and clear way, get one of the starter kits and build that and try racing with that to see how far you can go. And then when you feel like you want to upgrade, then you can just add parts to this basic setup right here. So all the pieces that you need to basically race competitively in Tune Class are here in this starter set, in this Rowdy Bull starter set. It's got an atomic tune motor in there, and it's got all these plastic parts here. So don't discount the plastic parts. I've seen cars win with plastic parts. So I've seen cars with plastic parts beat cars with metal parts. So don't discount the plastic parts just because they're plastic. Some of these cars, because they're lightweight and you can tune your motor properly, or break in your motor properly, then you could get a car that's extremely competitive, race-worthy, and will be able to beat the competition. So many of the other cars here, the FMA cars, very, very powerful, I would say that some people like FMA because the weight's up front and they say that it's a balanced car, but really it's not really a balanced car. The weight is towards the front, so it's front heavy. And there are advantages to that because if you go over a hill, then you've got that nice trajectory going, right? So you can go up and then down in a trajectory very easily when you have weight up front. However, there are certain instances in which, depending on the hill types, you can get into trouble with that kind of trajectory thing. So you have to basically find the right car, or discover, that is, the right car for the track that you're racing on. It's not always going to be FMA. It might be VZ. It might be Super 2. It might be one of the older chassis styles, too. It all depends on the number of twists and turns there are, the types of turns. Maybe digital curves might affect the outcome. There are slopes, banks, inclines, dragon backs, tabletops, things like that. So you've got all these things to consider when choosing your car. So take all of those things into account and bring a slew of different cars to every race so that you can try different chassis on a particular track, because you don't want to be limited or pigeonholed into one specific style of car. You don't want to just limit yourself to one style of chassis. I recommend bringing some FMA cars, some VZ cars, some MA cars, if you can bring one of every chassis type car, then you've got right there like an arsenal of different quote-unquote weapons that you can use for a particular track. So yeah, you have to think of it like that. If you want to conquer a track, one size chassis does not always fit all. So, and usually doesn't. So here we go. Here's the K4 Gamble, the original K4 Gamble, and you see right here on the cover, this is like a K4 Gamble type or style car. So there are some cute things you can do with this. You can open up the cab by popping out or carving out the windows, so you can put people inside. By people, I mean like little animals, like from the Animal Racers. Here we also have the Brocken Gigant, which everybody seems to love. Pretty cool. And here we have the Geo Glider, which a fair number of other people seem to love also, even though it has a 4.2 to 1 gear ratio, but it does have those big tires, so that supposedly makes up for it. However, if you take a look at some of the Animal Racers with the 5 to 1 gear ratios, it's totally underpowered. I don't know why they do that to the Animal Racers. So yeah, kids are purchasing these Animal Racers with 5 to 1 gear ratios. Sometimes they can be 4 to 1 gear ratios, and that's when you're lucky. But most of them are 5 to 1. And then the kids build these cars, and they end up being disappointed because the cars are cute, but they don't run very well. Like they're not very fast. And it's going to be like very difficult to find a track where the kids can be competitive with their Animal Racers. So this is a, not necessarily criticism, but this is like, I would love it if Tamiya offered a competitive version of all of these Animal Racers. Not just some. I'm talking about not just the GT Racers. The GT Racers are typically competitive, but for the normal Animal Racers, they should upgrade all the kits so that they do not have that stupid 5 to 1 gear ratio. There should be at least 4 to 1, maybe 3.7, 3.5 to 1 gear ratios. That would be cool. In fact, you know what? To distinguish the Animal Racers from all the other kits out there, all the other kits out there seem to be giving 3.5 to 1 gear ratios. Like, you'll see that as the most common gear ratio. Well, you know what? Animal Racers, if you gave out like a 3.7 to 1 gear ratio, you'll get a lot of people who will be very happy building those cars. Not just kids, but grown-ups too. And then it won't be so frustrating racing an Animal Racer. It's like kind of silly to try to race an Animal Racer in box stock. The only real way you can win is if everybody courses out and you just stay on the track because you're like slow and steady. So, enough of the ranting, we'll continue on. Here's the world-famous mock frame. There's a love-hate relationship with this for a lot of people. Everybody either loves it or hates it. They love it because it is lightweight, it is fast, it is balanced over jumps. However, because of its lightweight, it can also course out easily too. A lot of people who like FMA chassis, and they've raced mock frames for a long time, they actually prefer something like the Brocken Gigant because it's heavier, it's got a wider body cowl, it is more stable. Heavier, more stable than the mock frame. So here's another one that's pretty stable too, right? So this is the Razorback. However, they totally shot themselves in the foot by giving it a 4.2 to 1 gear ratio. I know it's got bigger tires on it, bigger wheels, but 4.2 with these big wheels is never going to compete favorably against these 3.5 to 1 like supercars. So these are like super powered, super fast, really cool. All these FMA chassis cars that have 3.5 to 1 gear ratios, you have to watch out for them. They're really fast. On most any track, they're really, really, really fast. So it's almost like FMA is a little overpowered in that respect for a lot of the tracks, especially tracks that have a lot of hills on them. But no, there are cars that could fare pretty well against FMA chassis. So FMA chassis are not the be-all, end-all. Next, MA chassis. Yay! So this is a nice balanced chassis because it's a mid-engine chassis, so the weight of the motor is not in the front, not in the back, it's smack in the middle. So being smack in the middle, you've got this very balanced car. Imagine a Porsche Boxster where the motor is a mid-engine motor, it's in the center of the car, and it keeps everything totally balanced. So if you have like a nice style car with a pretty robust chassis, you're going to fare well on a lot of tracks. The only problem, though, with MA chassis, as I've seen, is you've got this situation where some cars are 3.5 to 1 gear ratio, others are 4 to 1 gear ratio. And the funny thing is, with the 3.5 to 1 gear ratio, they usually give you small wheels, and the 4 to 1 gear ratio, they give you larger wheels. And so, because of the slower gear, the speed is offset by the larger wheels. Like the two of them, the small wheels faster gear versus the big wheels and slower gear. The two are supposed to be more or less the same when it comes to racing them box stock. But that's not always the case, because you have these supercars, these cars that I feel are totally overpowered, like the DCR-01. So the only hope that you have against a car like this is if this car courses out, but this car does course out a lot. So, and it depends on a lot of factors. Like, you could get this to not course out by lowering the battery voltage to keep it under a certain amount so that it can stay on the track. And again, it depends on the track, how low you want to lower the battery voltage. So yeah, and there are all these other cars too, MA chassis that like are supercars. So the DCR-02 is a very fast car, but this courses out a lot also. This is a 3.5 to 1 gear ratio with small tires on this one. So this is a speed demon. Not as fast as this one, but this one will probably course out a lot more than this one, depending on a lot of factors. But other good MA chassis that I've seen recently, I've seen this being very competitive, this Robo Race, which is pretty funny because they were giving this away at many places as like a freebie car if you win the championships there. So this is like a very common car, but people aren't using it as much as they should, because this is actually, it's a pretty good winning car. And I would say that everything's balanced on it. It's probably got a heavier cowl on there too, so it's more robust. So some of the cars that I like in the MA chassis designs, they don't show them here anymore, but I like that Rise Emperor, the old Rise Emperor. That was a pretty cool car. And I like the Shooting Proud Star. That was a cool car too. Oh, there it is. There's a Shooting Proud Star. That's the old one. But they had the Shooting Proud Star, the Clear Blue Special. That was out last year, the year before. And it was a pretty sweet car. It's got nice coloring, lots of cool features on it, like the carbon reinforced body. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now we move on to the AR chassis. So AR chassis, so again, some people have a love-hate relationship with this. I know some people at AAA who love this car. One of the racing event coordinators at AAA has an AR chassis car that's extremely competitive. It has basically all the plastic parts of the starter kit, and he has been using this to basically beat other people, totally smoke them, because his car's like totally optimized. Like, take every little trick in the book, and he knows it. He knows all the tricks, and he just basically configured his car in such a way that it's almost perfect. And that's really cool to see a car with plastic parts that can beat other cars that have metal parts. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So there are a lot of AR chassis cars that are really cool. This is known as like the speed car, right? So, but the problem with being a speed car is sometimes you can go a little too fast. So especially if you're going around a curve and then up a hill, the AR chassis has been known to corkscrew and land on his back. So that's one of the things that like totally frustrates a lot of racers who try to race this AR chassis, especially this car here, the Flame Astute, as well as the Shadow Shark right here. So these two are known, at least from what I've seen a lot of corkscrews with these two particular cars here. So I would say that if you were to choose an AR chassis, try to find a wider body AR chassis, not one that looks so much like a little Indy 500 car. But your mileage may vary, right? So like, look at this. This is like a little Indy 500 car, and my friend from AAA, his car is like perfect. So you could build your car in such a way, if you know all the tricks, to basically configure it in such a way such that it will not corkscrew as easily as other people's cars. So here we move on to Super 2, which is an older chassis, but it's still loved by a lot of people. And why is that? Because it's been around for a long time, and it's tried and true, and a lot of people consider it to be a very fast chassis. So the only big problem with Super 2 is, well, I would say it's a major problem, but there's some good things about Super 2 also. The good things about Super 2 are, well, the front part there, the front roller mounts are very sturdy. So this car is going to, if it ever courses out and crashes into a wall, it's pretty much protected by this reinforced front. Other cars are going to be a lot more fragile, like the VZ chassis, for example, very, very fragile front rollers. So if you ever had this car hitting a wall, it's probably going to break something on the front. It's probably going to either snap off the roller in the front, which I've seen happen on many occasions. It might actually even tear off the front part of this plastic part of the chassis here, because it's so chintzy, it's so flimsy, it's not real sturdy. But look at Super 2. Super 2's got all these cool cars associated with it. It's got so many cool animal racers. It's got so many cool looking cars. to its name. It's got, look, this little thing that looks almost like a Mini Cooper, but it's not. It's the Cope and Future Limited, and you can get a sticker set. You can make this car look like other cars with the sticker set. Pretty cool. And it's got these like wild looking designs, like the Shining Scorpion Premium, and this one right here, which is kind of like, it looks almost like the same. And some of them have these red side things. You can basically set this up so that when you upgrade this to Tune Class, all you have to do is add those carbon side stays, and you have a place to bolt on side mass dampers. Pretty cool. Moving on to a very classic chassis. This is the MS chassis. The MS chassis is known for being one of the most modifiable chassis because it's been around for a long, long time. So a lot of people have a lot of experience with the MS chassis. You could convert an MS chassis, a standard MS chassis, to what's called a suspension system chassis. So the suspension system has basically springs inside. So they cut the chassis into parts so that it's got this shock absorption suspension with springs inside the chassis. So as one race master has said to me, he considers MS suspension chassis as almost like there's no way to win against them, right? Because they already have this built-in advantage of the suspension system. And that's really, really true. You've got this almost unfair advantage with the MS suspension chassis because it's got that the spring stuff inside. So you have to try to figure out how to make your other cars, your non-MS cars, to be as fast as the MS cars, and also deal with things like hills and bumps and things like that the MS suspension chassis would be able to deal with without much issue. So yeah, the MS chassis, cool cars. There are a lot of cool designs. However, if I were to race this in box stock, I'd rather not, because the MS chassis has a lot of, the biggest drawback is it's very narrow. It's a narrow chassis, so your cars width-wise are going to be a lot smaller than other chassis cars. So why is that bad? Your car is going to be careening back and forth along the walls while it goes forward. Now, if it does go forward and straight, that's fine, but chances are it's going to be hitting the walls as it goes up the length of the track. So you want to minimize that as much as possible. You don't want this to be bouncing too much off the sidewalls because that causes friction, resistance, and that slows the car down. So if you were to build an MS car for box stock, you want to try to find a car that has palm type rollers on it so that you have at least some level of slickness when you're going up a track part. But you really want to also have the car being a little wider too. So having not the palm rollers, the small palm rollers like on a turf racer, for example, having the larger rollers like you would get on an X-Flowly, that's actually better in many, many cases than having those palm speed rollers from the turf racer. So yeah, X-Flowly is actually a good car for a lot of tracks, a lot of modern day tracks. But yeah, it's almost a crapshoot if you choose an MS car for box stock. For open class, having the suspension, that's a no-brainer. You want to do that if you can. For tune class, MS chassis are like, some people like it, others totally hate it. So your mileage may vary, it's up to you. So here, VS chassis. Another classic chassis. There's a lot of cool cars made with the VS chassis, a lot of animal racers, especially ones with this Wolfie design here. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff here. Then there's, right here we have these trucks, these wild mini trucks, and these are not mini four-wheel drive racing cars, so to speak. These are trucks that go very slowly. They have 75-to-1 gear ratios in them. You can upgrade them to 18-to-1 gear ratios if you can find the gear. And very few people sell these things nowadays, the 18-to-1 gears. So right out of the box, this is very slow. These trucks are very slow, and it's cute to be able to build them and see them run over like various terrain that is. So you can have rocks and bottle caps and things, and these trucks can run over them. And the whole goal, if you want to set up a race between them, is to have them just move in a straight line and go down the straight line road over all the obstacles. See how they deal with all of the obstacles. So pretty cool. So, end of chapter 1, which is the catalog of all this stuff. And now we move on to chapter 2, building various components of the cars. Okay, so this appears to be a laser mini car, one of those new like Lord Knight, Lord Spirit type chassis. And they basically built it up so that it could be competitive in, I suppose, tune class category. So they're using FRP parts here, which I'm not a big proponent of FRP parts. I think they're totally terrible. I feel like you should just not waste your money on FRP parts and just get some carbon parts. Because if you want a car to last any length of time, you want to get carbon parts. I have had so many issues with FRP parts, especially if the cars course out, hit a wall, then there's a good chance that these things will not last very long. So just save yourself the aggravation, get carbon parts instead of these FRP parts. So yeah, so these are just some examples here of how to upgrade this Lord Knight car to be something better than the box stock version. So, next page. Pretty cool. So now we've got another Laser Mini four-wheel drive car that's been upgraded. Very cool. We have here some information about how to check if your shaft is bent. So let's see what it says here. Subtle bending of the shaft can be easily checked by rolling the shaft on a flat surface using your fingertips. Be careful when it does not rotate smoothly and you feel it getting caught on the way. The drive shaft may bend if subjected to a large impact, such as in a crash. It can cause the shaking drive loss, so replace it when necessary. There are all these little tips throughout this Super Speed Guide. If you can come away with like 2 or 3 good tips out of a magazine like this, then it's well worth the cost of the magazine. So yeah, you definitely want to get the new Super Speed Guides every year just to learn some new tricks and tips and techniques for your cars. Okay, so you'll get to see a lot of the same techniques here and in previous Super Speed Guides, and also in their Orange Book. Their Orange Book, which is updated also on a biannual basis. So this is sort of like a Super Speed digest. And this digest, this orange one, which I've reviewed in another video, comes with this little ruler guide that you can use to measure your cars to make sure that they're in spec. So pretty cool. And it's also got right here the new VZ FRP plate. So some of these plates, the FRP ones especially, are not marked. So sometimes it could be confusing to try to figure out like which is the 19mm hole versus the 13mm hole. So here is the guide for that. And there are measurements for how long the car can be, how wide the car can be, how high the car can be, things like that. So pretty cool, pretty useful, and it comes free inside this digest. Very cool. So I think they're up to the red one by now. I think it's no longer, the orange one is no longer the most current. So we go through, we see that here are the different motors and timings with the motors. So apparently they did some test with a car running around this track and they timed it. Pretty cool. Some information on gear ratios right here. And here are the different motors along with the measured power of each one in terms of torque and RPM. Rollers, all the different available rollers that you can get for your car. So again, a lot of this is repeat information from previous speed guides. All the different plates that are available. Carbon, FRP, tires, wheels, brakes, very cool. Spacers, grease and oil. Remember I talked about this in a previous video. Very useful tool. I was like so happy when I got it because it's like super useful. I think this was meant more for FRP drilling than for carbon drilling. So you could definitely use it for carbon, but it'll take you a long time to make a countersunk hole with that. So there are other tools that you can use. You don't have to use the Tamiya tool. You can always use a Dremel and a special bit for it. So this little article here talks about how and where to oil the various parts using the oil pen and also the grease tube. Pretty cool. Polycarbonate bodies, batteries, now we get into some open class things. So here, last time they had an article about how to build a front AT bumper, and that was very useful for me because it was my first foray into building an open class car using an AT bumper system on the front, and that's what Venom is all about. The FMA car that I built, it had a front AT bumper, DXN style front AT bumper. Pretty cool. So here we have examples of other types of things that they're building. What are they building here? It looks like something for the tail. Or is it the front? I don't know. It is an AT system though. Oh wait, it's a sliding system. A sliding front bumper, a sliding AT bumper. Pretty cool. So it slides and it also lifts up as well. It rocks up and down. Pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen a lot of articles that talk about these parts here. This is like a rear, I think it's a rear brake system for the MS chassis. Masking technique. How to cut the polycarbonate bodies properly. How to mask them for painting. Here's the painting techniques that I mentioned earlier. And some information on the championship races. And here are the winners' galleries, all the cars that won various prizes. All the different locations of the tracks. The cars that won from 2022. These are definitely not McMinis, that's for sure. Every car looks a little different. I mean, there's some like similarities in the design concepts, but if you look at these, like every one of them has like, it's like the signature car of the person who invented it, or designed it, that is. They're not trying to copy each other. They're not trying to make a one design fits all kind of thing. They're really creating a very special car. Each and every one of these cars is very special, very different. It's pretty cool. This Magnum Saber looks like they're giving you some detailed information on how to paint this properly, so it looks cool. And this guy, yes, this is the guy on the Tamiya website. And yeah, I remember watching many of his videos where he shows you how to do painting techniques and masking techniques and things like that. Pretty cool. And this, ooh, here we go. Body dampening system. Now, some of you might like to use carbon plates to create your body dampening system, your body damper system. I like to use car catcher material. I feel that it's more lightweight. It might not be as sturdy, but I like that little bit of give that the car catcher material gives you. So there's a little bit of flex going on right there. And some people don't like that flex, but I think it's a good thing. Some people really like rigid, solid carbon plate designs. I think the car catcher material also gives you a little bit better absorption too, especially when the body damper is coming down. This is pretty cool. I've never actually seen like this. They've taken apart the various parts and they show you kind of like what it looks like separated. So here's what it looks like together and here's what it looks like separated. So this is very nice that they're doing that now. And that's it. So we got to the end of the Super Speed Guidebook. Yeah. So everybody, if you like this video, please slam the like button, subscribe to my channel, and you'll see more videos just like this one. Until next time, everybody, see you. Bye.